You know, the loss the other day had an all too familiar ring to it.
You are Locked On A's, your daily Oakland A's podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, A's fans, and welcome to Locked On A's, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about your Oakland A's. As long as they stay in Oakland, we're going to be doing it. And wherever they play next year, well, we're going to be right back here, too. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. I've been a baseball podcaster for well over a decade. This is my 6th season here at the Locked On Podcast Network. Normally, I'm the host of Locked On MLB. And guess what? I'm still the host of Locked On MLB. In fact, I just did a live cast for Locked On MLB, and then I changed what I'm wearing. Now I'm doing Locked On A's. Do you know why? That's how committed I am for you, and where are the you A's fans out there who need a daily podcast, because this year is going to be strange. Follow us at Locked On A's on Twitter, or whatever it's called now, and on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. I mentioned this on the Locked On MLB episode that I just dropped. I was getting ready to do the Locked On A's podcast this morning. It is Memorial Day. I'm recording this around 10:15 on May 27th, 2024. This is the, the 41st anniversary of the release of Return of the Jedi. And I wanted to double check that I got today's episode in before Monday's game. And guess what? I don't have to worry about that, because the A's are not playing today. Now, again, I'm not going to repeat what I said on Locked On MLB. Go over there, Locked On MLB. It even says right down there, watch next, Locked On MLB. I'm not going to go through my whole rant here, but it is inexcusable that any major league team is not playing on Memorial Day. It's a national holiday in late spring, early summer. Basically, it is the unofficial entranceway into summertime. It is a day that most people have off. I have off as a public school teacher. Most businesses take this day off as a holiday. Most people with families, they have a job where they have today off. And if they have a family, they should be able to either go to the ballpark and see the home team, or if the home team is on the road, then you can watch the game or listen to the game. You're doing a cookout, whatever you're doing. There should be a ball game on today. How does Major League Baseball just constantly make the wrong decisions? And this was the plan that I mapped out on Locked On MLB. Every team in baseball plays on Memorial Day, on the 4th of July, and on Labor Day. They play whomever they were playing on Sunday. They play a day game the next day. If every team has to have a getaway day the next day, fine. But they play a day game for the same team they were playing. No one has to travel. They play a day game, so it's a 4-game series. Okay? Those still exist. They play a day game, and it starts at 1 o'clock local time. Or maybe you do that thing where all the games start at the same time. But I say 1 o'clock local time. So if it's an East Coast game, it's 10 a.m. on the Pacific Coast time, and 1 o'clock East Coast time. And so every fan base has a day game they can follow. And half of them have a team that they can go see. It's not that difficult to figure out. But the A's did not play. And, by the way, Gravity Follow-Up Pine says, sweet sweater, Sully. This is the windbreaker I got at the Coliseum when I went there on May 4th, 20 days ago. It was 20 days ago I was in the Coliseum. 20 days ago, A's fans had hope. And it was pouring rain and freezing. And I realized what I was wearing was inadequate. So I got this. So yes, I understand I put a little bit of money in Fisher's pocket, but I wasn't exactly going to sew my own windbreaker. Besides, it allows me to put this on and represent the A's and see who are A's fans out there. Let's just let's talk a little bit about the game yesterday because it was pretty frustrating. It was frustrating just by how familiar it was. Two things have really gone against the A's on some of the winnable games over the last few weeks. There have been some games that just had the doors blown off the dump, and those happen. Every team's going to have the doors blown off the car, and therefore you don't have to worry about that. But there are plenty of times we've seen, especially the Seattle series and some of the other games they've been playing recently, that two things have sunk the A's. One bad inning where they let up a crooked number that they have a hard time, adjusting themselves to. And the other is they rely too much on the home run. They can't get a rally going. And then you look at yesterday, and it was the textbook A's loss that we've seen since that May 4th game where I bought this sweet windbreaker, which is they had the entire game. They played 9 innings against the Astros and held them scoreless for 8 of those 9 innings. And the one inning they let up runs, they let up 5 runs, and only one of them was earned. Now, Max Schumann had a rough day. The man had a rough day. Now, granted, he did hit a home run later, but he made 2 errors on the same play, and it opened up the floodgates that ultimately, now I don't know if that would have been an inning-ending double play or not. Maybe, I don't know. But the fact of the matter is it allowed for the inning to go on. And, actually, no, that would have been the third out. That's right. I'm sorry. I conflated. It would have been the third out of the inning because Pena and Diaz got those. It would have been 1-0. But then Schumann made two miscues on the same play. And then that led to the Altuve RBI single, and then Kyle Tucker hit the 3-run homer. And what was a 1-0, we'll take our chances game, turned into a 5-0, I think this is over. And Aaron Brooks, who didn't pitch great, but didn't deserve the beating he got, he did let up, 9 hits, but only 1 earned run, and allowed Ronel Blanco off the hook, coming off of his, he has an unusual substance suspension, which again, yet another time an Astros player is involved in something like that. But could they come back? Sure. That was only in the 4th inning, and they got the Schumann home run in the 6th, and Langoliers hit the home run off of Hader in the 9th. But of course, they were both solo shots, and of course, they couldn't get a rally going. They couldn't get a hit going. They had, they 1-2-3 inning in the 4th, 1-2-3 inning in the 5th. Solo shot to lead off the 6th, double play. So only 4 batters come up in the 6th. The leadoff walk in the 7th couldn't bring him home. Leadoff walk in the 8th, and another hit, but double play by Blade, and then home run, but nothing else after that. They couldn't get a rally going, and so you get that one bad play derailed the entire game. And by the way, another thing, I don't know if you've noticed this, but Jack O'Loughlin came in yesterday, and he pitched 3 shutout innings of relief. Tyler Ferguson pitched an inning and 2/3. So they got 4 2/3 innings of shutout relief from the bullpen from people not named Miller or Urseg. And by the way, the other day, in the other game against Houston, Kyle Muller pitched 4 innings of shutout relief. So that's another thing that is going wasted, is they're getting tremendous relief pitching work that are basically taking the wind out of the sails. But the A's can't build the momentum. That what happened the other day when Muller came in, it was, again, 1 bad inning. And they chipped away, but only with solo homers. They can at least homer when someone's on base, for goodness sakes. But here we go. You can't afford to have to do that play that Schumann made, which should have been the end credits of a Benny Hill episode, and it opens it up, and next thing you know, The A's are behind the 8 ball, or at this point, the 5 ball. And you can't just keep relying on solo home runs to get yourself out, especially when the bullpen is doing their job, shutting down Houston. So, look, I know we're not supposed to get too excited, but you had a chance to win this series. You had a chance to win the series and start the Tampa series with a little bit of a roll, saying winning back-to-back series against Colorado and against Houston. And again, to continue to creep up on Houston as the goal is to not finish in last and sort of pull the rug out from under them. There's another thing that was weird about the game yesterday that I actually had to look something up before today's show because I wasn't sure if there was more bad news. Instead, I think it might be a different kind of bad news. Believe me, eventually that will make sense. Now, I've already been complimented on my fashion. And clearly when people watch me here at Locked On A's or Locked On MLB, the first thing they think is, wow, how is Sully so stylish? Well, it comes naturally. Actually, it doesn't. My sense of fashion, I need help. And if you need help with that, try out Stitch Fix. It can give you that confidence boost that you can have when your outfit just looks great. And you can't just rely on things you buy at the A's dugout store. Use Stitch Fix. You can easily upgrade your wardrobe with a professional stylist that helps you find new on-trend favorites that will work for you. I gave my stylist, that's right, your pal Sally has a stylist. That's how I roll. I gave him my size, didn't lie about it. Style, budget, didn't lie about that either. And then I order boxes when I want, how I want, no subscription required. And they send 5 just for me pieces, plus outfit recommendations and pro styling advice, which clearly I need. And my stylist is the best. That person always sends the just right pieces. The fit is on point. And it's like they have style ESP. It's like they use the Jedi mind trick here on the anniversary of the release of Return of the Jedi. And I don't know how they do it. Maybe they are Jedi, but they just get me. In Stitch Fix, they make it look easy. I don't like to shop for clothes. I don't. Here's me going shopping for clothes. Does it fit? Fine. Throw it in the bag. They save me the time and effort. Plus, I get outfits that make me look good and feel good and be good and goody good. And if you don't love something, and I got something out there, I said, no, that's not for me. Not for me. Just send it back. Shipping returns, they're always free. Styles that make you feel as good as you look. And believe me, I look good. Get started today at StitchFix.com/MLB. Get $20 off your first fix. That's StitchFix.com/MLB for $20 off. StitchFix.com/MLB. You must redeem within 7 days of sign up, but you will. Hey, where is your hub for learning about what's going on in sports? Not just here with the A's, but check out the NBA final, check out the Stanley Cup playoffs, all these things going on. You've got to make the switch to Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you to bring you the biggest sports stories you can find. Locked On Sports today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or on the free Amazon Fire TV channel app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So I did a bit of a double take when I was watching the game the other day. And when I said, wait a minute, is Rooker hurt? Why isn't Rooker in there? And I've found nothing that seems to point whether or not he's hurt or not. In fact, I'll even go right here. And I'm on MLBTradeRumors.com. That's usually where you get some interesting information, but nope, nothing there, and no word if Rooker is hurt. I'm at the MLB site, huh? Anything there? Injuries and moves. There's a whole thing called injuries and moves. Nope, nothing there. No word that Brent Rooker wasn't in the lineup. Why the hell wasn't he in the lineup? One of the hottest hitters the A's have. It's not as if the A's, you go down the line and they have all, this isn't the 1988 A's. This isn't the Bash brothers, where they have so many hitters that every once in a while you sit McGuire, you sit Canseco, and you give someone like, Carney Lansford will move over to first for a day, and Tony Phillips will play third, or maybe Stan Javier will get a start and give Canseco the day off, or maybe they'll put Dave Parker in the outfield, or all these different configurations of the Rubik's Cube they had when they were so filled with depth. The A's are in that position. They have a chance to win a series against Houston, and there's a day off today, stupidly. Why the hell wasn't Brent Rooker in that lineup? I'm going to go out on a limb, and I take a look at the lineup and say, I'm double-checking here. No, I don't see him. Toro, Bleday, Andujar, Langoliers, Brown, Davis, McCann, Geloff, Schumann. Not exactly murderer's row. Where the hell was Brent Rooker? I'll tell you what, and one thing I thought happened, and I swear I thought this, because I had heard about the Acuna injury. Ronald Acuna Jr. is out for the year, and it's terrible because he's one of the most exciting players in baseball. For more of that, watch today's episode of Locked On MLB. I thought, oh God, did they already trade Rooker? And they're going to trade Rooker. Now, buy your Rooker jersey now if you want to have him there. Rooker, who was the A's lone all-star last year when he hit 30 home runs, and his first really full season in the majors after bouncing around between the Twins and the Padres and the Royals, getting called up, sent down, finally found a home with Oakland, made the all-star team last year, and this year is having a better year. He's already has 11 homers. His OPS is in the 900s. He's going to be traded. He's going to be traded because for the A's, there's no reason to keep him. He can play the outfield or he could DH. And the Braves desperately need to have a major league player in that spot. The A's, despite the fact that they'll, wander around 500, are probably not going to win piddly-poo this year. The thing that stinks, though, is if the A's make a deal involving Rooker or involving, God forbid, Miller, A's fans in Oakland aren't going to really reap the benefits of that. And there's no real guarantee that A's fans in Sacramento will either. Although I've said openly, I do believe the A's are going to wind up staying in Sacramento. And to Las Vegas A's fan on Twitter, don't worry, I'm not ignoring you. I'm prepping an episode about what we were talking about the other day and trying to weigh some of the pros and cons of the Vegas move. But Rooker is going to be dealt. He's a good trade chip. And remember, the A's got him for nothing. They got him off of waivers from Kansas City. They didn't give up a player to acquire him. And so if they get anything for him, that's an improvement. Except this also comes to a punch to the face to the fans and gets down to what is a major problem, especially for people who do not live in the Bay Area, who haven't followed the A's. So why don't fans show up there? I don't understand. Why don't they show up there? Not just because the stadium's falling apart and they make no attempt to make it fan-friendly. They also have no attempt to allow fans to attach themselves to a player. Mason Miller's come out of nowhere to be a Rookie of the Year candidate, legitimate all-star. And the first thing we all think is, wonder where he's going to be traded to. Brent Rooker was stolen from Kansas City, became an all-star last year with 30 home runs, has come up with a bunch of big hits. And again, don't get attached to them. They're gone. The nanosecond they can, they'll trade them away. Which was, of course, the biggest difference in the Haas family era that I alluded to, was that they kept their stars so you could get attached to them. They actually brought Ricky Henderson back. Hell, eventually they brought back Canseco and Dave Stewart and a couple other people as well who had second and third rounds, tenures with the Oakland A's. But Rooker is good as gone. You know that, and I know that. And that kind of stinks. But if you have a chance while he's still playing, if it's not too inconvenient, could maybe you play him so they could win a game or two against the Houston Astros? Is that asking too much? Hey, if you're going to be going to a game and you want to make sure you get the right tickets, yeah, I know. Hey, tickets are easy to get by. Yeah, but you can still buy the wrong ones. You could still get hosed. You can still buy it in the wrong section. That's where you got to use Game Time. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace for Major League Baseball. Makes getting your A's tickets faster and easier. And prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. So if you're feeling, I don't know, spontaneous to go to the A's game, use Game Time. You'll get a good deal. You get last-minute deals, all in prices, views from the seats, and the lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes all the guesswork out of buying Major League tickets. I use Game Time when I go to the A's games because I have a specific area I like to sit in. I'd like to sit in the second deck, not the upper deck, not the field level. Second deck, behind home plate, but a little bit up the first base line. So kind of, not all the way up the first base line, but between first base and home. That's my favorite view. Unfortunately, get the view of Mount Davis. But that's how I like to look at the game. So when I get my ticket, I want to make sure I'm sitting where I want to sit. And you can go good up, get the panoramic view from the seat. That's what I want. Or if you've narrowed it down to a zone, you get the zone deals. And what happens is they get the section you want to sit at. Game Time will figure out the best deal for you. And they got Game Time ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying A's tickets or any Major League Baseball tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices. Do what they are. Do you know what they are? They're guaranteed. Hey, this is a reminder that Locked On has created the first ever national sports streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channel app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channel app. I was going to be doing I bet you forgot they were on the A's segment about Ron Cey, and I will eventually do that. Ron Cey was a huge star, and with Davey Lopes, part of the great infield that was there for basically a generation. And Ron Cey had a weird cameo with the A's, and he fits in perfectly with the story. So, but I was looking up that team that Ron Cey played on. It was the 1987 A's, and I want to pay tribute to them. For me personally, that was the year my family moved from New England to the San Francisco Bay Area. And I got a front row seat to the Giants winning the division, which was their first appearance in the playoffs since 1971. And there was a huge excitement about that. But there was a weird sense of something was happening with the A's. Now, the A's became a great recipient of Ken Harrelson being a horrible general manager in Chicago, when he, for reasons that historians, sociologists, and hell, maybe even paleontologists won't be able to figure out, the White Sox made announcer and, probably all-around fun guy, Ken Harrelson, the general manager of the team. And his time, now there has been controversy whether or not it was good or bad, because some good acquisitions did happen, some bad ones did happen. Bobby Bonilla wound up being traded away. But the dumbest thing happened was the firing of Tony La Russa. Now, if you only know La Russa as the out-of-touch and completely wrong member to manage the recent Chicago White Sox, you're forgetting the fact that La Russa at one point was the best manager in baseball. Just ask him. He would tell you he was. He was a bit of a know-it-all, and I'm sure not the easiest guy to get around with, and not someone you want to drive home with after a night of drinking at the bar. But he was an exceptional manager. He took the White Sox to the playoffs, wound up becoming the second manager in baseball history to win a World Series in both the American League and the National League, second after Sparky Anderson. Eventually, Bruce Bochy would join that very unique fraternity. And yes, Mom, I said very unique intentionally. But when he was brought over to the A's, this is when the Haas family was owning the A's. Now, the Haas family inherited Billy Ball. Charlie Finley, when he sold the team to the Haas family, one of the last things Finley did was bring in Billy Martin to be the manager. And the A's had a remarkable turnaround in the early 1980s. And Billy Martin took them all the way to the American League Championship Series in 1981. But Billy Martin did what Billy Martin did, which is he always implodes. And eventually, after the 82 season, he was gone back to the Yankees. And between 83, 84, 85, and 86, the A's were that weird middle ground type team. And then in the middle of the 86 season, La Russa was fired by the White Sox, and before he finished packing his bags, the A's gobbled him up and made him the new manager of the team. And this was really the beginning of the Haas family and Sandy Alderson and Walt Jocketty and all the people there to put together what would become arguably the A's at their peak. Yes, I know they won 3 World Series under Finley, but what the team became in the late 80s was their peak in terms of how they were run, their peak in terms of their popularity. They became one of the most popular teams with some of the best attendance in all of baseball. You can look it up. Became the model organization. Acquiring La Russa and a pitcher who was let go by the Phillies named Dave Stewart was the first big, were the 2 first big stepping stones. No one knew it at the time. 1987, in retrospect, was a very strange transition year. That was the year in the cocoon where the A's were about to emerge as a green and gold butterfly. And in retrospect, the transition was very clear. But when you look at the team, holy cow, is it weird? Holy cow, the names on this team, the combination of players who would eventually go on to be on the team that won 3 straight pennants and won the World Series in '89 were there, but also a bunch of other players who seemed almost randomly stitched together from other teams. Dave Stewart was there. Let's talk about some of the people who were there. Dave Stewart had his first full year as a starting pitcher for the A's, had stunned everyone by pitching, say it with me, 261 and a third innings, winning 20 games and throwing 8 complete games along the way. Suddenly the A's had an ace that they just borrowed from the Phillies. Do you know who was also there? Dennis Eckersley. Now, Dennis Eckersley was washed up. Dennis Eckersley was kind of a sad figure at that point. The former all-star pitcher for the Cleveland Indians and the Red Sox had battled alcoholism in his time with the Chicago Cubs, and the A's basically picked him up for chump change, put him in the rotation, didn't work out. They put him in the bullpen, started to work out, especially when Jay Howell, their regular closer, started seeing his ERA creep towards 6. They put Eckersley in the bullpen and saw, this could work. Maybe he could be a reliever. There's a couple other relievers on that team, like Gene Nelson, who went on to become a mainstay. And towards the end of the year, they made a trade for Rick Honeycutt to be a starter. They acquired him as a starter. Now, eventually, they decided to put him in the bullpen. They also acquired Storm Davis from San Diego for a guy named Rob Nelson, who was supposed to be the next big power hitter, but instead it was his teammate Mark McGwire. Their pitching staff also had a bunch of other people who seemed kind of oddly out of place. Jose Rio, who went on to be the World Series MVP against the A's in 1990, made 14 starts, not very effectively. Joaquin Andujar, former World Series hero and all-star with the Astros and the Cardinals, was on the team where he made 13 starts, not very effectively, mind you. And you also saw a couple of people like Moose Haas, who was a star for the Milwaukee Brewers and the Harvey Wallbangers, was there. And as was Gary Lavelle, who was an all-star closer for the Giants. This team was really weird in their pitching staff. But if their pitching staff was weird with a couple of double-take names, the lineup was nothing short of bizarre. Now, there were players who would go on to be part of the '89 championship. Terry Steinbach emerged as a Rookie of the Year candidate. Tony Phillips was the jack of all trades who could get on base, had decent speed, and could play anywhere they want. Carney Lansford the steady third baseman was right there. Of course, they had the Bash brothers. Remember, Mark McGwire hit something like 30 home runs at the All-Star break. People wonder if he was going to hit 60. He didn't. He probably needed a little bit of a boost. He may have gotten his boost from his teammate, Jose Canseco. They just look different from other players. It's hard to put my finger on it. You also saw some other players who would be part of that team, like Mike Gallego was there, and Walt Weiss came up as a late season call-up. Louis Polonia, who wound up playing on the 88 A's and being bounced around to a lot of championship teams, he was there, sure. So were a couple of future World Series heroes for other teams, including Brian Harper, who was a World Series hero for the Twins, and Jerry Willard, who had a walk-off sac fly in the 1991 World Series, made cameos there. And hated infielder Johnny LeMaster, who was booed so often from Giant fans that he actually taped over LeMaster on his back and just wrote boo. But then you also saw like some people like Dwayne Murphy, who was a leftover from the Billy Ball era, still playing there. And the likes of Alfredo Griffin and Mike Davis, who would wind up being on the team that wound up beating the A's in the World Series. And you had Ron Cey, a mainstay with the Los Angeles Dodgers. And you had Reggie Jackson playing his final season. Not very effectively, mind you. In an OPS under 700, only had 15 home runs. But you look at this team that La Russa managed, it was just a weird hodgepodge of different eras of A's baseball, all colliding at once. And here's the thing. Do you know how the A's did? They finished at 500. But, and at no point during the year were they in first place by themselves. However, they were playing in an absolutely terrible American League West. And on August 29th, just before we went into the stretch year, the Oakland A's and the Minnesota Twins were tied for first place. They were tied. And in fact, the A's were ahead of the Twins in the loss column. All they had to do was have a decent September, and the A's could have won the division that year. Instead, they went 14-19, the fourth worst record in the American League. The Twins didn't exactly run away with it. They went 17-14. And the Twins wound up winning the division. And unless you forgot, the Twins won the World Series that year. It was a weird World Series. But the Twins won the World Series, and the A's were tied with them with about a month to go. Now, the A's took one look at that team and said, we need to do some remodeling. And they made a couple of key deals, including bringing in Bob Welch and saying, Eck, you're the closer from now on. And lo and behold, it worked. But that 87 season, what a strange hodgepodge. What a strange, crazy quilt of different eras of A's baseball all colliding at once. And it's hard to argue with the fact they made the right choices of who to put in, seeing the potential of some of the players who were cast off, like Eckersley, like Honeycutt, and especially Dave Stewart. And it led to an era of A's baseball that we can only dream about right now. All right, well, the A's play tomorrow, unless they have 2 days off, and we're going to talk about that. I'm going to address some of the Las Vegas issues a little bit later and bring up a couple of more A's players I bet you forgot played for them. So, talking about the A's and their inability to avoid that one bad inning. This has been Locked On MLB. Happy Memorial Day, everyone. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.